What is happening, folks? Welcome back to another episode. Tonight, we're specifically talking about the topic overfeeding. We're going to talk to you about how to prevent it and what are the most common issues causing overfeeding and what it relates to and how it's terrible for your aquarium. Right here in front of me today, I have a few different varieties of food. I'm going to be demonstrating feeding for the different varieties of fish that are in this aquarium behind me. We're going to go through and show you how I select and choose the perfect amounts of food for the specific aquarium and fish, and how much you should be feeding, when are you overfeeding, and what to do if you do. You got your top feeders, your middle dwellers, and then your bottom dwellers, and you're like, well, everybody has to eat, so I'm throwing handfuls of food in there, and it's getting to the bottom, and it's laying there, and it gets old, and it swells up, and it starts to decay, and it rots, and then it leads to parameter issues like high ammonia, high nitrite. So it becomes a challenge to really make sure everybody's getting food when you start having fish that eat at different levels in the aquarium. So having an array of things that either float, slowly sink, or sink right to the bottom is good. So for example, here I have these three varieties here, the Hikari foods for a prepared dry diet, the Discus BioGold, we have the Hikari Cichlid XL, and then the Hikari Vibrobites that everybody knows and loves. These three things are something that I will feed in this aquarium here to make sure I'm hitting the dietary needs for all the fish that I have here behind me in the 220. The Vibrobites are slowly sinking. The Discus pellets will kind of sit at the top for a period of time and also slowly sink to the bottom. And then I have the Cichlid XL that's also a sinking pellet that gets right down to the bottom. There's a couple of other foods that I will also feed in this aquarium along with frozens. We're gonna dive in depth today on how to limit the amount of food that may become excess and lead to overfeeding and issues in the water quality of the aquarium, but still making sure that you're getting enough food into your fish where they're not getting emaciated or skinny. So, we'll start. I'm going to use the table here for a representation, but it might be easier for you folks at home to use containers that you can maybe measure or kind of portion out a few there afterwards so you can kind of get an accurate measurement. So what I like to do is I'm going to take small pinches. I'll come over to my aquarium and I'll take a pinch, something that your fish is going to consume within the first like 30 seconds. That you put the food in, that they're going to consume everything. It's all getting eaten up and none of it is going to hit the bottom. If you have fish that are kind of a middle column water swimmer or a top dweller, something like that, they're going to eat this food up real fast. So I'm going to take a small pinch and I'm going to throw it in the tank. Everybody's going to come up and they're not paying attention at all. There they go. There goes the Congos. So everybody's going to eat that pinch up really fast. Everybody's going to go through. Some of it's going to get to the bottom. That first pinch is gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my container, or for the example here, I'm going to take the same exact pinch that I just put in the same quantity, and I'm going to set it aside. And that's my first pinch. And I'm going to give it 30 seconds to a minute, give time for everybody to kind of digest. Think of it, if I put an example, you're at Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, you have your cheese and crackers, your snacks, you eat a few of them, and then you have your salad as your appetizer, right? And then you have your main course, and then a few hours later you have your dinner. So we're kind of doing the same thing here with the fish, and it gives you an idea on how much you can actually throw in for when you're in a rush and you want to make sure everybody gets enough food, but it's not too much. And they're going to be able to eat it and consume it within the first 5 to 10 minutes that it's in the aquarium. So now everybody's all up here, they're all alert, and they're ready to go, so I'm going to do another pinch about that same exact size. And everybody's going to go to town and kind of eat up those pellets pretty quickly. And then I'm going to take another pinch and I'm going to put that down on the table or my cup or whatever. And you're going to do that about 2 or 3 times. But because I'm using a different array of food here and I want to kind of hit everybody in the tank at every level, I'm going to stop there. So I got 2 pinches. It's not an exact science. It's something that you kind of have to get used to, but start with little pinches, and you may start with like a few morsels and it's like 5 or 6 pellets in the tank and everybody eats that up real fast. You may have to do that 4 or 5 times to get to the amount that they're going to eat. And basically what our end goal is to get to a point where the fish are actually full and they stop eating, and that's when you stop. Then take that one amount and that portion, you're gonna get the hang of it, or you can pre-portion them out in little cups, little baggies, to maybe help some family members out if they're ever taking care of the fish as well, and you have that right amount and not go, oh, Mom, just take a couple of pinches, and then she takes way too big of pinches, and then you come home after vacation and the entire bottom of the tank is coated in food and you have major issues with your water parameters. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of the Cichlid XL here, and this is going to get down there, and they're going to kind of nibble on a few of these pellets, so I'm going to take a a handful and throw that in there. The Congos love this food too, so they eat a little bit as it's starting to sink down. But I'm gonna take that same amount. Again, this is gonna be a little redundant now, that we're kind of doing the same process again. But you'll do this with all your foods. And I take that same amount of pinch that I just threw in. You know, kind of roughly estimate to give yourself an idea. So now all that's gone, there's nothing left on the bottom, there's nothing that's overfed. And I'll take another one again. Now the Congos are gonna hit that at the top. Really aggressive feeders, but it takes them a little bit to eat a couple of those pellets. So the other half of the handful ends up going down to the bottom. I got my clown loaches, my hoplo cats, and the cories are gonna kind of pick at that for the next couple of minutes. And now I'm gonna take that second handful and set it aside. And it's very simple, just like that. Now I'm gonna go into my Viral. So this is my prepared diet that I'm gonna feed this tank on a regular basis. And then I have a couple of bushy nose plecos in there as well. About 2 to 3 times a week, I'll throw in a couple of the algae wafers so that they get a little bit more of added sustenance into their diet. And now the cories down here at the bottom, now this is where the challenge with smaller bottom dwellers comes in. You have to make sure they're getting fed. So in some cases, you're gonna have piles of food for a period of time. And 20 minutes, you come back after you go get a cup of coffee or eat lunch or something after you're feeding the tank, and there's still a whole bunch of food in the bottom, you overfed. And at that point, you're gonna wanna actually remove that food if it's been there for way too long. That's the best practice in making sure that you don't spoil your water quality. I'm gonna throw them in, and the Congos are gonna go to town again. The Angels are gonna pick out some. The Discus in here are gonna pick out some, and these are gonna slowly sink. Gives time for the Congos to grab a few more. Everybody else is kind of picking at it. You'll see the clown loaches come out, and most of this is gonna settle down to the bottom there. And now all the cories have a pellet that's sizable enough that reaches the bottom because these are like slowly sinking. They're gonna be able to go through and kind of pick everything up. And even the bushy nose is eating a few of them. That was about the handful I threw in there. Now this is a ton of food. If you're looking at this, yours is definitely gonna be different at home. In different foods, the fish are gonna consume different amounts. I don't feed the Discus Biogold too much in this aquarium, so they weren't crazy about it, so it was a smaller amount. And you'll have to try and use different foods, and the biggest thing we want to do is vary the diet. So you're gonna get different amounts for different types of food because some fish may not be super into eating something more than the other. Once you have this amount, if you want to combine them all together and pre-portion them, it's fantastic. If not, you can just feed them and get the hang of it, how much you got to grab. I do it so often, I know how much of a handful I need to kind of get down there to get to the fish. That's basically it. It's kind of a simple process. It takes a little bit of time. A lot of people always ask, how many times do I feed? How much do I feed? This is a process that you'll be able to do for a once-a-day feeding. You're gonna feed that amount after you figure out how much it is your fish are gonna consume once they become full and they stop eating. You're gonna do that amount once a day. And you're gonna pilot that and try it out for, say, a week or 2 weeks. And then you'll notice, you gotta take a look at, are your fish really fat all the time? Is it a little bit too much? Are you putting, is there a little bit of extra waste in the aquarium? Are your nutrients up? Or do your fish look a little thin? They're not as plump, they're not growing as fast as you wanted to. So you kind of have to take it all in consideration and kind of ebb and flow with it. It's not an exact science on how much to feed. There's little tips and tricks like we showed you here today. Make sure everybody consumes everything within 5 minutes or so at the max. In smaller aquariums, within the first 1 to 2 minutes, you want all the food to be consumed. In bigger aquariums where you have a lot of bottom dwellers that need to get food, it does become a challenge sometimes to make sure that everybody gets what they need. So that's why coming in and feeding something that maybe hangs around a little bit longer at the bottom so that they can come out. But within 20 minutes or so, everything should be consumed. That's basically my tips and tricks for you guys tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. Keep fresh, baby.